Hey folks, I'm just headed to CrossFit here. We're gonna go to Reddit for a question this morning. This one's from ExperiencedDevs. This one will be a bit more of a kind of like a brainstorm, I guess, because the question is pretty open-ended, and it's essentially like, what are the most helpful things that you do for your team? So, thought this would be kind of fun to talk through. I'm going to try to see if I can talk about it from a couple different angles. One being, of course, as an engineering manager, like what are things that I do that I have had feedback on that seem to resonate really well with the team. And then like, I want to talk about it from the perspective of like again, if you're not an EM, are there still things that like I recommend you do because I see that they help the entire team. And maybe I'll start with that because I honestly think that's where more of the value is going to be, because I think the stuff that maybe I do as an EM might just be like, I don't know, it might not resonate as much. So I'm probably going to be thinking of more stuff as I get talking, which is kind of the goal. But I think the first thing that comes to mind is like, as much as you can balance it, being able to jump into things like activities where you're unblocking people. So that could be code reviews, that could be getting on to reviewing design documents or anything else. Like if you are one of the gatekeepers, or the something on the team has to get crowdsourced because it's being gate kept. I think a code review or a pull request is one of the best examples of this. Being able to try and get that stuff out of the way, I think is one of the most helpful things. And I realize that, like, I can't just say, as soon as you see a notification for one, like, drop everything you're doing and go do the pull request or code review. Like, that's kind of not realistic. But I think as much as possible without derailing all of your own work, and if everyone on a team can do this, I think it helps tremendously. And that's really just like trying to get through code reviews and pull requests, or get to them as quickly as possible. I shouldn't say get through them, because I'm not trying to suggest like you just like rush them and like don't actually get any value out of them. I just mean the fact that, and you probably have experienced this, right? Like you put up code to get reviewed, and then like 3 days later, you're like, guys, come on, like, can you please review my code? So trying to do something for your team culture to help improve that, right? I think a lot of the time, a lot of code review systems will have notifications that go out, they email people, right? And then kind of like it just becomes a little bit like noise. So you're like, oh yeah, like I saw it, and then you were busy and you forgot to go back. And it's a pretty common thing. So, if you can have on your team culture, part of your team culture, where it's normalized to remind people, email goes out a few hours later, if no one's touched it, cool, like ping people in the chat. Or maybe you do both, you ping in the chat right away when the notification goes out, because maybe some people, like I know for myself personally, I get so many emails that if someone needs me to go look at a pull request, I would much rather that they tag me in chat, because then I know like it's it's more serious, I guess. So just something to think about. But I think that's a huge one in terms of helping an entire team out. It seems like a little thing, but like if you could imagine yourself every time that you were blocked on a pull request, imagine if like that amount of time was always just really low. You would probably feel a lot more productive because you're not waiting or context switching as much. So something to think about, finding ways to make that effective, but still not overwhelming you with like, all of your flow state is gone. So that's one. I think next is some type of documentation. And I feel like this is evolving more with AI tools. So I don't know if I have like a fully sort of like refreshed or refined answer in my mind. Oh, Oh goodness, talking too much first thing in the morning, not breathing enough. So what's going through my mind is like onboarding documentation, but also like TSGs or like things for helping on-call engineers. I kind of clubbing these things together because I think onboarding documentation is really helpful. Really, you should have something like that. But if you're like, okay, Nick, yeah, but we're not onboarding people every day, so like, it makes sense why onboarding documentation goes stale because we onboard someone like once a year, and sure, when we're doing it, like we want to make sure the documentation's good, but it just doesn't happen that often. So like it kind of feels like we want it, but the effort to maintain it like is just too great, and I get that. But the reason I'm clubbing it together with like on-call help is because at least on a team like mine, our greater team is responsible for the on-call health of the entire set of functionality that we have in the team. And this was the same on the previous team I was on. So even though like I have 3 feature crews within my greater team, and there's even more feature crews beyond that don't report to me, every single person when they're on call has some responsibility at least to be able to mitigate issues across the entire platform. Okay, so when I'm saying like documentation for onboarding, and clubbing it together with like on-call type of documentation, the whole point is that someone else in the team to some capacity should be able to jump in to help like understand functionality, mitigate issues, and like if there was zero documentation and there was an issue going on with your platform or service, like that experience is going to be terrible. Right? And I don't know, like some of you listening to this may have lived through stuff like that where there's like an alert firing, or you have a partner service that's like, hi, like all this shit's busted, and you're like, okay, and you start investigating it and you're like, oh, it's related to feature X, or area X, part of our service or our product. And then you're like, I know like Jimmy worked on that, and same with Susie, but like it's 8 p.m. or 9 p.m. they're not online, and like I can't seem to find like anything about it. So you're like, your documentation is the source code, which I mean that's the most real thing there is. But sometimes when there's a fire to put out, what you don't want to do is try learning how something works just directly from the source code for the very first time. So I think that there's a lot to be said about when you're building features and functionality. It's a good opportunity if you're like, hey, that's going to be something that when people are onboarding to the team, like we should touch on that. Like, yeah, like remind yourself maybe you should go update the onboarding documentation. But furthermore, if that's something that an on-call engineer is going to potentially have to help support, where's the documentation for that? Like, is there? If there's not, maybe you should consider your features not done until someone who has to support the service of their product has a little bit of guidance for what to do. And of course, like you can't predict every single scenario, or else you'd probably have written automation to prevent those things from happening. But the point is that, if people are getting involved in an on-call incident, you want something to help them out, okay? And I've I can give kudos to one of the sub-teams. I think I have one feature crew in particular that does a really good job of writing documentation. But a couple of weeks ago, I was on call for almost 2 months straight. And there's one of the sub-teams, they've done a really good job with updating their documentation. And I rarely, like when I'm on call, I feel like issues, I don't know, I'm not saying they have no issues kind of thing, but I find like it's less frequent that I'm dealing with that stuff, or it's auto-mitigated a lot, or there's questions from partners, and it's less like something's on fire. But if something does go on fire, I don't know that area very well. It's just like I don't spend a lot of my own time there. Like I have 3 other areas that I need to spend significantly more time on, but their documentation's really good. So when an alert comes up, they actually have like quite good guidance around how to go like troubleshoot it, investigate it, and resolve it. So like I really appreciate that. That's a really helpful thing for me as, in this case, someone acting as an on-call engineer. So I would say like, documenting the important things, I would say is, my second one on my list. I think another one, this is going to maybe sound a little fluffy, I guess, but like it's actually apparently really hard for people to do, and I understand, but like being honest with feedback and doing it early, I think is really important. I know it's like difficult for people to give like critical feedback, or to give feedback that's not just like, hey, great job, pat on the back. But both of these are important, like giving critical feedback and the pat on the back kind of thing. And it's like, it's kind of crazy. We don't do either a lot. And it makes a really big difference, especially for people that are more junior or newer to the team. Like everyone could benefit from a little bit more confidence in the work they're doing, right? Even people that like sometimes seem overly confident, they might be not actually confident, and they're trying to compensate for it. But I think people either getting feedback about how to do things better next time, or being told like, hey, great work, like you did an awesome job on that. When that comes from your peers, like I don't think people recognize the kind of impact that kind of stuff can have. It's tremendous, and we don't do it a lot. So my recommendation to anyone listening is like, it takes, you don't have to do this for like every single thing that someone does, but like, in a week, set a goal for, once a week to start things off. Like try to make sure that by the time Friday rolls around every week, you've tried to give just one person on the team, like a, hey, good job on something they did. Hey, saw how you were handling those comments on that pull request, and you can do this two ways here. Like you were giving really good feedback to someone on that pull request, so I just wanted to acknowledge that I thought that was awesome, and like you gave helpful comments. Or the other way, like, hey, like really good job on that pull request. I thought that you had there was a lot of different opinions showing up in the comments, and I think that you did a really good job navigating that. Right? Awesome job on the design doc. I think you touched on a lot of really important things, and I just wanted to acknowledge that like I thought your analysis was done really well. It was very clear. Awesome job keeping that meeting on point and like not running over time, and it seemed like really clear goals in the beginning, and by the time we finished, like there was some clear action items. So just wanted to give you kudos for that. It's not hard to do because it takes such little effort, but for some reason in practice it seems like it's quite hard to do, or else we would do more of it. Right? It's like I want to say like it's simple. It's very simple, but it seems to not be easy. And that's just like on the positive stuff. So truly, I think that, if you could set a goal for once a week by the time Friday rolls around, try giving some positive feedback to folks, like one person, try it. Right? That should be very doable to do one person. I need to do a better job of it. And I'm an engineering manager. That's a part of my role. And then I would say the inverse, right? And I understand that this one is significantly more difficult, because it's like, okay, how do I bring this up? How do I navigate this stuff? But I'm not going to suggest like once a week, find someone to go criticize. Not that way. But I do think that if you can, like maybe a good thing to, like a thought exercise is, if you had to, especially for more junior people on your team, not that you can't give feedback to more senior people, I'm just trying to kind of narrow this down a little, but if you were to think about someone more junior on your team and you're like, I think that there are situations where it would be good if I can give them feedback. If in your mind you're like, oh shit, but like, I don't know, they're probably going to get upset, or I don't want to bother them, or I don't think that they really value my opinion, or I don't know. Like, if you're already kind of throwing yourself off from it, it's going to sound kind of silly, but like, why, right? Like, what are the reasons that you're thinking that way? I'm not saying that you're wrong for thinking that way, but I want you to go through the thought experiment of like, why, right? Like, is it because you don't actually interact with them much at all, and now you're about to pop out of nowhere and give them some constructive criticism? If so, like, that's valid, right? That's very valid. So what can you do to make that better? Maybe actually engage with them a little bit more, right? Like, there's something to be said about actually forming like a working relationship with someone where you're not just an absolute stranger that's popping out of nowhere to criticize them. Like, I have to do this as an engineering manager for building trust and respect, right? Like, yes, I might be someone's manager, but I don't just get to command respect and command trust. Sometimes that comes a little bit with the title, but like, I absolutely would not rely on that. And I would say the same thing about senior engineers on the team, right? You get a little bit of it implicitly, but like, you need to work on earning that trust and respect. So how are you doing that? And if the answer is, well, I'm not, and then you're also feeling like it's really uncomfortable for you to give feedback, like, I'll give you a counterexample. There are individuals that report to me that, and there's several of them, where on different occasions in like one-on-ones, they've come and basically they've talked to me about something, and they'll do this thing where they'll say something like, oh, I don't know if I should, or like, this might not be okay, but there's sort of like a disclaimer before they bring something up. And to me, that's this pause for them in their minds, like a pause of acknowledging, like, wait, I trust this person, I respect this person, and like, even though this is uncomfortable for me, I want to talk through this because I know that this person will try to help me. And to me, that's a reminder that I like the time and effort that goes into building trust and respect is working. So that means if I do have to give them critical feedback that might be hard to deliver, I can do the same mental exercise where I'm like, you know what, this person knows that I'm coming from a good place, that if I have to give them difficult news or difficult feedback, like, they know that I'm here to help because they've leaned on me multiple times in different situations, and that's like, they've literally said it. So then I can feel more comfortable doing it. So genuinely, if you're like, oh, I don't know, like, this person might not value it, like, ask why. And if the honest answer is because like, you don't ever talk to them, or you're never like working together on things, and whatever it happens to be, like, maybe invest some time and effort into that. And then when you have to give feedback, it's less awkward and terrible. But if you can, please try to do it early. Try to do it like when it's relevant, not waiting for some issue to grow and get out of control. Because then at that point, it's a lot more difficult to give feedback because you're like, hey, that thing that you've been doing for 6 months sucks. Don't do it. But yeah, I think that's all the ideas I got. I didn't get to even the manager stuff because I guess the drive was shorter than I thought. But if you got questions, leave them below in the comments, or go to codecommute.com. You can submit your questions anonymously, and then check out the other Dev Leader channels. I got to get into CrossFit, so I'm not going to spend time on that, but there's 3 of them. Dev Leader for programming, Dev Leader Path to Tech for resume reviews, and the Dev Leader podcast for interviews, and a live stream every Monday at 7. I'll see you next time. Take care.